I think for an arch pipe, there's more cost.
Exactly, is an arch pipe?
Wider, yeah. It's elliptical kind of, like an egg. Yeah.
So we need to start our meeting. So can we talk about this a little bit again? Okay. Thanks.
Say the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any chance to look at the minutes and agenda?
Yeah, we'd like to switch number 5 and number 6 again.
Switch them around?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. Second from Derby to approve the minutes and agenda as altered. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, 9 a.m. Andy Smith, WHKS, to discuss with possible action DD5, Lot 5.
Thank you. I'll go through the report kind of as fast as I can, I think. I don't know if you guys have a chance to look at anything or not. Anyway, back earlier this spring, you guys hired WHKS to investigate DD5, Lot 5 tile private ditch that was decided. You wanted us to investigate condition of the tile, condition of the ditch, if the ditch could be used as an outlet for the lateral 5 tile that was appeared to have no outlet. Also talked to IDDA, Iowa Drainage District Association, regarding this. A little bit of more recent history on this lateral. Back in 2014, B&K was hired to do a report on that to investigate why there's so much ponding going on and the condition of the tile. I was an engineer at B&K at the time. Filed a report on that, found out that looked like the upper third to half of that tile was disrepaired, plugged, whatever. Also looked at, there was plans at one time to do a relief tile coming from the south across the highway. That was found to have never been constructed. At that time, it was recommended that the lateral 5 tile be repaired. Like I say, about a third to half of that looked like it was probably damaged or plugged or whatever. Copy of a portion of that report is in Appendix A for your reference. Even though things were recommended to be repaired, it appeared that Mr. Elliot Evans, he's the son of Betty Evans, the property owner, that this lateral 5 tile goes across her property. Instead of anything being repaired, he went ahead and dug a private drainage ditch to relieve the ponding water on his property.
Just so for the minutes, that had been requested over and over for years. It never got done.
Correct. There's been ponding issues there that have been requested for something to be done for a long time. And thus, the reason they looked into doing a relief tile that never got constructed.
Right.
Elliot did get a permit from the DOT to work in the DOT right away to construct his private ditch. Since 2014, there's been formal and informal communications going on between the district and Mr. Evans regarding this lateral 5 tile. It appears at one point to try to satisfy the trustees for what appeared to be damages caused to DD5 lateral 5 tile. Mrs. Evans drafted up an offer letter in which she said that she would, her and her heirs and assigns, if she sold property, would be responsible for the maintenance of this private ditch. And it appears several property owners signed off accepting that. And then
Wasn't it 100%?
I didn't get 100%. Some people were gone.
then the most recent correspondence was a letter from the county attorney on behalf of the district back in January of 2016 directing Mr. Evans to make repairs to the damaged lateral 5 tile. Copy of that letter is in Appendix C for your reference. And then also the latest thing that has happened in this area is Elliott has gone and cleaned out part of that private ditch this spring due to slough-ins and other issues going on with that. WHKS, we went out and did some field reconnaissance earlier this summer. We got Elliott dug up the lateral 5 tile about every 300 to 500 feet. We took elevation shots on it, checked condition of the tile, and so on. We also took shots on the private ditch that he dug to check the shape of it and the profile of it as well. We also used what they call LiDAR to help supplement the limited shots that we took, so we can kind of create a surface model to see what's kind of going on out there. The lateral 5 tile, I'm on page 3 kind of. The lateral 5 tile looked like the lower end, about 800 feet, looked like it was in pretty good shape. Approximately the same grade that was designed for, about the same elevation it was supposed to be designed for. The next 560 feet of tile was where Elliott dug through the tile to dig his ditch in. Destroyed part of that tile where the ditch is. Looks like there might be a portion of tile still in place, but it's on the south side of the ditch, so it serves no purpose, so it's out of commission. And what we found was about 560 feet of tile was damaged or out of commission due to the private ditch. And then beyond that, we dug up several other locations on the upper half of the tile or third of the tile, and found that a lot of that tile was damaged, missing, plugged, so it was pretty much junk in that upper third or so. And even some of it was still underwater when we were out there in June that we couldn't investigate it entirely. And that's on the far east end, close to 190th Street. And we were going to attempt to check condition of it underneath the road, but it was also, that area was all underwater, so we really couldn't get in there. But we're assuming at least the part in the field was probably in just as bad a shape as everything leading up to it. The cover on that tile is only, through that area is a foot, 2 foot tops, so it's not a lot of cover to clay tile off the farm field. We also checked the capacity, found the capacity of the tile, if it was in good condition, a 10-inch tile, the slopes given, or found to be at, we only had a 1/32 to 1/8 inch drainage coefficient. Again, most people nowadays will design for a minimum of a 1/2 inch drainage coefficient. A lot of farmers like to go up to 3/4 or an inch, so it's definitely grossly undersized, as was found in previous history of this area. There didn't appear to be an outlet for the remainder of that upper lateral 5 tile either. I couldn't see where it was coming through the bank. Even though it was all damaged, there didn't appear to be any location that we found where the old lateral 5 was coming through the bank. Into the private ditch, correct. Looked at the private ditch. It was in fair condition. Like I say, Elliott cleaned out at least looked like the bottom third or half of the drainage ditch this spring. Must have been sloughing in with things. The banks on the ditch were anywhere from near vertical to 1-to-1 slopes on that ditch. The bottom was also found to kind of meandered just a little bit. It wasn't real drastic, but enough that it might need some work on that. We do have photos, both of the tile and the open ditch in the appendix, if you want to look at those. So basically, in summary, about 795 feet of the existing tile is in good condition. That was the bottom end of the tile. There's a middle of the lateral 5 tile that LA damaged or is out of commission. There's about 560 feet of that. And then there's about 715 feet of lateral 5 tile on the upper end. That's damaged beyond use. And then we got another 100 feet under the County Road 180th Street. And all of this is kind of summarized on that first drawing page that you guys looks like you got kind of open to. The blue line represents the decent tile. The middle red line is the tile that got destroyed or was out of commission. The yellow tile is the tile that's pretty much junk.
That middle tile could very easily have been out of commission even before the ditch, correct?
I suppose parts of it could be, yes, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, some of that tile's in that south of the ditch as well, and we never went and looked at any of that because it's basically useless tile at this point.
But had that been tile working, that water would have been forced out into that ditch. Wouldn't that be a fair assumption?
Yeah,
Wherever that tile comes into here, even though you didn't find it,
the yellow tile is the one that we found
Right.
that's existing, and that was in such disrepair. If it was in good repair, perhaps there, I don't know, maybe it could have bubbled up and forced a location of where it was plugged on the far west end. But every hole that we dug up there, it was sections missing.
Right.
It was damaged. It was plugged. So I just kind of made the assumption that whole stretch in there was kind of junk. And plus, with only having a foot of cover, 2 foot of cover tops, it was pretty likely that it was broken. Just real quick, trustees required to maintain adequate outlets, drainage facilities in their jurisdiction and responsibility according to Iowa code. Trustees also can make repairs to damaged tiles. It also says that you can pass double the cost of repairs on to the party responsible for damaging district tile or district systems. That is my interpretation of what I read in the code. I would strongly recommend talking to Adam or your other attorneys if you want to confirm that interpretation.
but in order for us to go forward with that, we'd have to prove that that was good tile. That was damaged.
I don't know if you'd have to prove it was good tile. It doesn't say anything about the condition of the tile. That could be something that would be up to the trustees. I think, like I said, I can't prove something that's pretty hard to prove.
Well,
One way or
I'm
the other.
assuming that a portion of that tile's still there,
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
some in the south bank,
right?
but like I say, it's not usable at this point.
Right. Are we gonna address the land to the east?
The district tile stops at the east road ditch of 190th Street. So anything going on with the tile further to the east would be a private tile.
The drainage map is not correct.
Randy called me up and talked to me about that one time, Randy Groves. And he talked to me about that, and I said the map's not right, the new map's not right. The old map, the yellow book, that shows it correctly, and so does the original plans are showing it going just to the east side of the road. The 18-inch relief tile that we looked at, that was supposed to be constructed that never did, that went beyond. And that might have been where, why it was shown going beyond here as well. So that, yeah, that it just, that's the end of it, from what I have found so far. East right away. So at this point, to keep things kind of in repair under the district's jurisdiction and so on, come up with 2 viable options that the district may have available. Option 1 would be to basically repair the existing tile, well, replace that existing tile. There's so much damage, remove whatever, there's no sense in just doing part of it. So it'd be recommended to replace all of it, basically from the outlet at DD5 main open ditch all the way to 190th Street. Drawings D1 and D2 represent this option. And in the, like drawing D1, the black line represents the existing alignment of the existing lateral 5 tile, and the darker, heavier red line is representing a recommended new alignment for replacing the old tile. And sheet D2 just is a continuation of this. As part of that alignment, since we're off the old alignment, we'd recommend just getting a new easement as well to go with it. 50 foot in width, 25 feet either side. And that's showing up in the hatched, kind of the hatched area. We'd be recommending at this point, unless you would want to look at an improvement, we would recommend to stay with equivalent capacity to run with a 12-inch either plastic tile or concrete tile, depending on depth of cover. We'd run them, and we went with a 12-inch just to get some additional cover on the far east end. I ran with a flatter slope, and going with the flatter slope, I increased the tile size by 2 inches to keep the same capacity.
Is that an improvement? Is that
It would not be an improvement because we're looking at basically the same capacity, and it's not deeper enough to, in my opinion, to make it improvement. It's being deeper. I'm wanting to go deeper just to protect the. So in areas of 3 feet and greater cover, we would run with like the HDPE. It's a dual wall plastic pipe. And then anything less than 3 foot, we would go with the reinforced concrete pipe to help protect that. And the property owner would still need to be careful going over, farming over it. It's still not a lot of cover. You'd be looking at maybe about 2 feet of cover for a majority of it at these a little bit deeper elevations. And I decided that for the alignment, we wanted to get it far enough away from the drainage ditch, the private drainage ditch, so that they can maintain that without affecting the tile with additional fill over it or anything like that. So that was the reasoning for the location that I chose on this. This option assumes that there's no tile lines coming from the south that would need to be reconnected, because they would not be able to be reconnected because of the private ditch. They wouldn't be able to, because the private ditch is a little bit deeper than the tile itself that I'm recommending. So there'd be no way to come across that ditch and connect up to it. And in order for them to dump into the private ditch, there's other legal issues there. They might be able to do that, but it wouldn't be into a district system. So, and I didn't notice that there was anything coming from the south, but that's sometimes isn't found until later on too.
Well, at present, the owners of the property to the south, there's been no complaints, only thankfulness to having this new ditch.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that the ditch has made improvements because it's lower than the tile, it's got more capacity than the tile. Obviously, the tile is not working either.
So then why are you recommending that we put tile back in?
I'm giving you options at this point. My
Oh, I thought you
recommendation
said,
is.
well, you put in there, you recommend that we do this.
Okay, I'm giving options.
Oh, okay, I'm
At
sorry.
this point, I'm sorry. So, that's option one.
All right,
All right, option two, is for the district, basically it gets on sheet drawings D3 and 4, and also the cross sections that follow. Option two would be for the district to take over the private ditch as the new lateral 5 and abandon the old 10-inch tile in place. That's it in a nutshell. We would leave a little bit of lateral 5 tile in place, like under the road, unless we find, and even for the other option. With either option, we'd want to investigate during construction the condition of that tile, lateral 5 tile going underneath the road. Make sure it's in decent condition, otherwise we'd want to replace that.
Would this be considered an improvement?
This would be considered an improvement, yes. With that being said, you'd want to run through or check with our NRCS, or the property owners in the district would need to check with NRCS to see if they've got anything in the program and with wetlands being affected or not. It can also be an improvement. Sometimes and I'll come to that here in a little bit, but sometimes considering it's an improvement, you also look at having to have public hearings sometimes, not always, which I'm coming to in a little bit.
if you still consider that improvement and you haven't increased underneath the road, it would be only be an improvement for this 40?
That it would most likely be for that 40, possibly to the property across the road.
So,
And it could be considered east of the road, gravel road also, because you got that culvert coming across, and it used to just dump water there until the tile could take it away. Now it's going to dump water, it's going to go away immediately, so all that water can keep coming across and not pond and just be an equalizer culvert. That would have to be a determination of NRCS in my mind. I don't want to predict what they would say. Like I said, we took shots on the private ditch, found them to be, the banks being near vertical in several locations to 1-to-1. We'd recommend, as part of this option, to basically reshape, run a new profile, clean the bottom, and get slopes to a minimum of 1.5-to-1. We're in a little bit sandier soils. They would, that's why Elliot had to clean them, because it was too vertical and they were in sandy soils anyway. So I would recommend that they would get flattened out to 1.5 or even up to 2 slopes. And that way they can have a chance to kind of hold their own. Obviously we'd have to seed everything as well.
if it runs into a problem with the NRCS, as far as improvement, when he reshapes this, can he just design it to have the same flow as a tile would?
But I don't think you can make an open ditch have a capacity of a 10-inch tile. I don't know how you could. You'd have to have it about that wide. Because it would probably always be more capacity. Just from physics of it. You got a little tiny 10-inch tile, and no matter how you shape it, you got to slope it back. And as soon as you slope it back 1.5-to-1, you go up to foot, you've already quadrupled your capacity of your tile. And it's recommending also the profile of the ditch to be at a slope of 0.06%. And by coming in at that kind of a slope, that would allow that lateral 5 tile coming across the road to have 1.5 to 2 foot of drop to get down to that flow line. Therefore, it gives you a little bit of relief, not only from a little bit of backwater from the drainage district 5 main, but also when things start silting in, you know, a little bit of work rate still an outlet even with a 1.5 of silt. This option would also require DOT to approve a set of plans, because it's kind of, I'm not changing the alignment any of where it's at right now, and it kind of meanders out into the DOT right away and it comes back onto private property. But even with that, I'm also recommending that the district would obtain additional right of way, so you have some room for maintenance. I did talk to the DOT a little bit about things. They don't seem to have any problems with the way it is now. They don't seem to have problems if we improve it a little bit and keep it where it's at. But we'd still want to get their official blessing on it and a permit to do the work to reshape things and keep it in the right way as first shown on the cross sections. I do have cost estimates on the following pages for these two options. Again, option 1 would be to put in new tile and to do it for the entire length. We got an estimated cost of just over $63,000. I'm on page 6 out of the appendices. I've got footnotes underneath both estimated cost tables. The footnotes, footnote 1 deals with right-of-way costs, and I'm basically saying that those costs, you might be able to consider those payable by Mr. Evans because of mostly from the aspect that we would have needed the right-of-way if the original tile was back in its original. Footnote 2 and 3 are in relative to the total construction costs. Excuse me. Footnote 2 is just a discussion of the 560 feet that appear to have been damaged and out of commission due to the private ditch. And then following what our interpretation of the code is to the utmost, it appears that the district would have the right to charge up to double the cost of the repair costs to Mr. Evans due to his destruction and placing that portion of tile out of commission. Again, this is our interpretation, and we recommend talking to the attorney about that to make sure the code is interpreted correctly. And number 3, footnote 3 is just applying all those interpretations. So the $63,000 total cost, out of that, it's possible that the district cost would just be over $37,000. The next page is table 2, and that is a cost estimate for option number 2. As you can see, the estimated cost for reshaping that, doing the work recommended, is just under $20,000. The same footnotes would apply as table 1 as far as our opinion of the right-of-way costs and our interpretations of the code. And if that is applied, footnote number 3, there potentially could be zero cost to the district.
If we gave the ditch, why would we replace the tile?
We wouldn't be replacing the tile. What you could view, he'd be responsible, according to the code, for repairs to the tile. But in this particular case, if you abandoned the tile and took over a ditch, you're still technically making repairs to the damaged tile because you gotta provide some sort of an outlet, and in this case, your outlet would be taking over the ditch and repair for the damaged tile.
What outlet taking over the ditch?
Instead of actually physically replacing tile, the repair is being, I'm viewing the repair of the drainage ditch, the private ditch, would be a repair for the damaged tile. And instead of replacing it with tile, you replace it with the open ditch. And I'm applying.
Also, this cost is what's gonna do, it costs to do the ditch.
This cost is just representing the cost it would take to replace the damaged tile, so I'm using that dollar amount and apply it to repairs to the ditch, to take it over instead of tile.
You wanna charge me for something that was bad to begin with, or, and plus double it? I mean,
I'm just trying to interpret what the code is saying and applying it here. And my interpretation of the code is the district can charge you double the cost to make the repair to the part that you damaged. And the part you damaged is estimated, if you want to replace it with tile, it was estimated at $11,000, and you can, and the code says you can charge up to double the cost of repairing it to the one that caused the damage. So the cost, if you want to apply the double the amount factor, is $22,000. And what I'm saying is, and this is all still kind of a decision you guys can make, and interpretations are kind of going on. So my thought was you could take what it would have cost to replace that tile that was damaged, double that cost, $22,000. My interpretation would be you could take that $22,000 and use it to make a repair to the lateral 5, whatever that repair is decided to be. And in this case, for this option, the repair would be to make an open ditch rather than make a tile. I don't know if I'm explaining.
No, you're not, because that would include this, the 715 feet. You're saying that 22,000 would go against that cost?
I'm saying that if you replace this red portion, it would cost $11,000.
Yeah.
Double that would be $22,000. So I'm saying that dollar amount is, in my opinion, would be available for the district to make whatever repairs are necessary to get this lateral functioning again. And if those repairs to get the lateral 5 functioning again is to go to an open ditch, it's my opinion that those dollars are available for use to do that work.
Which has already been done, except not to specs.
Correct.
We could charge double, but we don't have to, right?
I don't think it's required, no.
Yeah.
I'm trying to lay out there what I'm thinking the code is saying or allowing. So at this point, seating, once again, we kind of did that outside contracts. I haven't included those costs in here. WHKS, we are recommending option 2, assuming there's no issues with NRCS. And the reason for option 2 is to get it into a condition that we would recommend by reshaping and changing profile. It's, no matter how you shake it, it's going to be the lower cost alternative. It's also a considerably larger improvement, more capacity. It's a big improvement for the area. So it's going to benefit a lot of people, I think. It's going to probably benefit Elliot, the guy across the road, mostly, just because they're the lowest lying, but it's also going to affect people positively on the other side. Um, um, with this option, whether if the district ended up paying 100% of the estimated costs or whatever, or not, again, according to the Iowa code, since the estimated cost is under $50,000, even though it would probably be considered an improvement, according to the code, it doesn't require a public hearing. I think it might not be a bad idea to do a public hearing just because of different things going on if you chose this option. Also, according to Iowa,
For an improvement, it's not required.
yeah, I read it a few times. This one off last year. Iowa Code, Chapter 468, 1.126, repairs and improvements. That kind of highlighted and underlined in red. That's what I'm reading. And then also considering the estimated cost of the repairs improvements is under 100,000. Technically, you won't have to go out for a public bid letting for either. And it even, under 20,000 was kind of the old threshold, would theoretically fall into that.
Can we proceed with an improvement without a petition in place requesting such?
I believe you guys probably have the right to kind of, as trustees, I think you could take it upon yourselves to do that. I mean, I guess if nothing else, if you got a petition from somebody.
There would be one, so it's a moot point.
There again, I would recommend property owners in the watershed to contact NRCS to see how this would affect their wetlands, because there may be ramifications for them.
Well, getting back to the flow and the amount of flow, couldn't you put a berm there with a culvert or with a pipe with the same capacity as the tile itself to restrict the flow?
Oh, you mean put like the ditch and then put a pipe through it?
Plug the ditch and put a pipe through it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That would serve any.
Well, they would get around the improvement.
If the NRCS had a problem, then we could
Yeah,
restrict
yeah.
flow to down to where it would have been.
As long as, I think as long as the ultimate results were not increased capacities, I think that would be something that would satisfy the NRCS. The thing would be, you have potential for things silting in a little bit more.
I know it.
You'd have the banks, it would be like an open ditch, you'd have same issues other than you're restricting your outlet capacity. So you'd have some of the same issues, potential maintenance.
Standing water in it longer.
Yeah. I mean, that would definitely, in time, would silt in. If you wanted,
But if the cost of maintenance isn't an issue, then we could get input from the landowner.
so you twist, I haven't thought about this one, Mike.
Well, the landowner Elliot has said that he would maintain the ditch. So if the cost of maintenance isn't an issue to the district, then I wouldn't see a problem with it.
But I think you're back to making sure the district is making sure the district is taking care of the people in the watershed
Right.
with a system that is under their jurisdiction.
Right.
I don't think you could have the outlet, the district cost or jurisdiction, the open ditch, Elias jurisdiction.
No, I'm saying the district take it over, but can't there be an agreement brought up that the maintenance on this ditch will be the cost of that, the one that did Elliott?
I suppose you could come up with some sort of, have the ditch under the district's jurisdiction, you're saying? So they're ultimately responsible, but you, the district being, having an agreement with the private party to
Right.
maintain. I don't know.
What happens when someday Elliot's not here?
That's right.
Yeah.
That falls,
And then whoever purchases that land then would take it over?
absolutely. It has to be maintained.
But if the district takes it over, why doesn't the district just take care of it then?
I'm talking a way to get around, it might be a moot point.
If the NRCS is okay with the improvement.
Right.
Then we have no
Then there's no problem.
So I want to just get this straight. If we do option 2 and we take over the ditch, the open ditch, the improvement is making sure that the NRCS is okay with what?
Capacity.
Making sure they're okay with the improvement and not affecting any wetlands upstream.
Okay. Because I would want all of the landowners to have that NRCS checked.
Yes,
And
good.
yeah,
Right. Yeah, so I guess, you could request the landowners to do that. I don't know if they don't do that, what, happens at that point.
In all reality, the NRCS knew the same day when I was digging that ditch. And if there was a violation, the NRCS would send everybody a letter.
But if it's something that was done privately, you can't
If
hold
it-
other people responsible for what you do.
No, but it would have affected them. At NRCS, they don't sleep. I mean, they would have known right away. They would send anybody a letter that got affected by that.
Well, we'll have to check with them.
yeah.
Hopefully, they'll just be fine.
Right.
My concern is we have an outlet elevation of just under 1204 there, and you're dropping it down to 1202 on the open ditch. And that's what they'll look at is the improvement.
That would be one of the improvements of an open ditch, yes, because you're lowering the water table a couple feet, in the immediate area.
It's not a concern to me for the benefit of the district, but it might be a concern for the NRCS.
And the reason I'm doing that was so we could still have a reasonable slope on the open ditch and have a little bit of free fall at the tile line comes across the road of a foot and a half, 2 foot. We can do different things, you can flatten the ditch, but then you got more maintenance with more sooner potential of siltation. You could raise the ditch up and have it right at the outlet elevation of the tile, but I think that's gonna give you more headaches because you're gonna have more immediate issues. But, you can get a little pot of silt or whatever right there, and that just kind of puts your tile. I explored 2 options. There's probably several others that you guys are talking about.
You gonna pick an option today, you thinking? Or talk to NRCS first and then see, go from there?
It probably would be an don't know if do we have to put things into action before we do the checking with the NRCS? From a trustee standpoint?
I guess I'd recommend getting legal advice on this to make sure the report itself is properly interpreting the code.
Yeah, okay, but my question is, should we approve option, if we will, should we approve option 2 going forward to start the ball rolling to get the NRCS approval, or do we do the NRCS approval first?
You could probably go ahead with approving option 2, barring outcomes of NRCS's and investigations and legal counsel's opinions.
I mean, there's nothing that Amy said that I disagree with. I mean, I think the code does allow for double. Doesn't have to be, but it allows for that discretion. You know, I think option 1 and option 2 are both legally par with code, and we can certainly check with, you know, our contacts in Des Moines, but I think this is, well, it's what we kind of talked about, you know, 20 months ago when we sent the letter in January 2016 was kind of, hey, you need to fix this and we're going to bill you. So I think both of them are okay. Option 2, Mike, we talked about maybe having an agreement. Obviously, we just have to structure that agreement, and we'd have to file that with the recorder's office so that it is in the abstract going forward. I don't know if we've done that in the past ever before, but it's certainly something that, like, an agreement can be written up between the trustees and the party, and then have it recorded, and if that's what you guys want to do.
I guess, maybe I'm not understanding point 2 here, but I don't know why we're charging Elliott $22,000 for something that is now working and he already paid for it.
I'm just
Saying what we can do.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that to me, that seems like that's a potential option that can be, you can apply. Because, you know, what has been done to fix it, to me, isn't quite good enough, because you've got those vertical slopes.
Right.
So there's still
and Elliott's already committed to redoing it to your specs.
And I think that's totally something up to you guys if you don't want to charge them, because there was some expense with the initial digging. I think that would probably, I think it'd be up to you guys if
Well,
you.
to get the ball rolling, I'll make a motion to approve option 2 minus, what are you calling this? Addendum? Or,
If you want to say with no cost to Elliott,
all right, with no cost to
with the
Elliott.
district incurring all costs.
Well, I don't want the district to do any costs. If perchance there are.
So you're gonna have him just do these repairs?
Elliott said he would
Reshape.
to your specs. So in essence, it's gonna cost.
It's gonna get done,
It's gonna get done, it's not gonna
It's
cost.
not gonna cost the district anything anyway.
Yeah, so he's,
But to me, it's kind of option 2, but we're not.
it's option 2, but if he's the contractor, then he's not charging anything, so none of the bottom notes apply,
Right.
other than the right-of-way issue.
Right, well,
The right-of-way, well, there's gonna be costs. I would recommend getting right-of-way just so you can have something.
well, if the trustees would have been on the ball years ago, and I guess us too, in a sense, what would this have cost? Let's see here,
To replace that yellow line.
715 feet.
715 feet of ditch, Jake, if we would have done it.
No, just to replace it. That looks like that'd have been costing,
That'd be the concrete tile for sure.
okay, about $33,000. So that's no longer needed. So we have saved $33,000 right there to the district. I'm just,
Yeah, I mean, it didn't cost, obviously, no dollars exchange, so yeah, you potentially save 33,000.
We're gonna get an improvement for basically the cost of getting the right of way.
yeah, right.
Keep in mind, there will be engineering costs too.
No, yeah, there's always those.
Far cry from 33,000.
Who's gonna pay the engineering fees?
I think the district should, they were going to anyway, they would have had to anyway.
The tile was bad and a lot of it anyway, so it's just been neglected, so I think the district still should pay the engineer's costs. And they get it by cheap.
This is a vast improvement to what was there, and it didn't get fixed.
It would have, if we would have fixed it ourselves before, it would have cost a lot more.
Well, it would cost $63,000.
Yeah.
Minus, plus engineering fees.
Problem is that we had an engineer hired, we were getting ready to do the project. Someone did something, broke the tile.
We were not getting ready to do it.
We had
This
to
was all done after the ditch was dug.
No, well, we did a report before anything was done to investigate what's going on. And then in that report, it was recommended that we repair the yellow part of the tile. And then at that point, that was the end of what my involvement was. And that's before anything was done, when Ellie had dug the ditch.
But if you did move forward, you still would have to do a report.
That was the report that would have gone out for, hired a contractor to make the repairs that were recommended in that report, which I don't remember what it was, but it was, maybe it would have been that $33,000 or whatever.
In option 2, are we extending the ditch closer to the outlet of the right of way?
As our option 2 on, I'm recommending keeping the ditch outside of the 190th Street right away. So we'd be pushing it over a little bit from where it's at, maybe 30 feet or 50 feet. So that we can keep that ditch out of the secondary road right away. And then we would connect, there might be a little bit of pipe to connect the existing lateral coming underneath the road to come to the top end of that ditch. And just throw some riprap in there to help protect from erosion from the
So
culvert.
some of the digging spoils will go into the previous ditch then, kind of flatten that out.
Yeah, that'd probably be the way to do it properly, to fill that back in. To the original grade, yeah. And then kind of reshape that area to get the culvert to go right to that new ditch alignment, and yes, fill in a little bit of that corner with the spools. That'd be something I would have to add to a plan sheet or whatever.
So will there be more engineering costs to get the ditch spec'd?
If you want us to stake it and inspect it, whatever Elliott does, yeah, there would be.
Because then I feel that cost should be Elliot's.
Why?
Because he's the one that dug it and he didn't do it to spec. So
That
if we
was
have
it.
to respec it,
There would
that
be
should-
the engineering cost if we replace the tile.
just my opinion.
What's the difference? It can be your opinion, but I mean, it'd be nice to have a rationale behind it.
We're still getting.
Because we had the engineering costs, and if we charge that to the district would have had maybe extra costs because he would have already done the engineering fees first.
Well, I've already proved to you that we're saving $33,000 by not having to replace that part of the tile. That's just the 715 feet. We have no clue, and if we want to go your route, then I say we investigate the 560 feet, what we can, to see what condition that tile is in.
I just said that was my opinion.
The district is getting a vast improvement for much cheaper than what it would have been if we'd have repaired it through the proper channels.
Okay, Mike, now, you started with your motion.
Right.
I want to clarify the motion before I second it.
Thank you.
So, option 2, you're going with option 2 improvement as spec'd, less we're just not going to exercise our ability to double the
Correct,
cost
minus
of
number
it.
2 on our engineer's report.
Okay, minus second addendum. And then Elliot would be doing the work then.
Correct.
At no charge.
Okay, and engineering costs go to the district as normal?
Yep.
Which they pay too, so they'd be paying part of it. Was there anything else in it?
We have to get the NRCS.
So
Those are
all
all
pending
pending.
NRCS.
And Mike, do you want some agreement then?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Right, I mean, we need
The
to,
maintenance agreement with the landowner.
we need to
So-
structure something.
In your motion, you're leaving them in charge of maintenance of the ditch?
We'll have to draw up Adam's gonna have to draw up an
The,
agreement with
the,
the district.
the district's taking over the ditch with the understanding that Elliott and any future landowners will perform the maintenance on the ditch, right?
Okay, so that's different.
We will decide it needs to be repaired, but he would be doing the repair.
Correct. The trustees will decide when and if it needs
But that should
repaired.
be included in this motion, because
Right.
otherwise,
Correct. We can draft the agreement later,
Take
but,
it over.
Yeah.
yes. Because option number 2, right, Andy, isn't that what it is? We're taking over, the trustees are taking over the district.
Yeah, it's the new lateral 5,
Correct.
abandoning the tile that's out there now, except for what gets connected to, through, across the road. And then I would recommend getting the right of way, similar to what I show as well, where I can draw up a plat. I don't know if, we can get an easement or whatever, and then if Adam or whatever could prepare that easement agreement, attach the plat to that.
So are we going that route, or are we just leaving it to where he's responsible for the maintenance of the ditch?
well, we already said that.
If you're taking over the ditch as lateral 5, that'd be a district system.
So it's.
You know, to make, there's a lot of things that are gonna have to go through Adam anyway, so subject to Adam's drawing up the agreement.
The maintenance
We can
agreement.
sit and argue about this all day long.
I'm just trying to say what probably should be in
Right.
place for the district.
But to cover it, we'll just, subject to Adam's agreement, legal opinion, not legal drawing up of a contract.
Okay, so can I just repeat what I have for the motion, and then I have option 2, as specs, no cost to Elliott. Elliott will do the work, no charge. Engineering costs will go to the district, all pending the NRCS and pending the legal agreement with Elliott. And landowners will be responsible for future repairs. Is that what you want?
The landowner.
Landowner?
You know,
Landowner and future.
why don't we table this, let Adam draw up an agreement? Is that fair?
I think Chris was indicating that we've got similar ones, so it should be something easy to draft up. But
Let's table it, we can approve it next week, and we could, then we're set in stone. We can sit here and hem-haw and go back and forth, try to outdo each other.
Well, we've already worked out, it's set in stone, though.
Well, there might be things that,
He's not anticipating, you're not anticipating any problems, are you?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's a pretty standard,
Yeah.
standard agreement. I
well,
mean,
that's fine.
I mean,
I'll let my motion.
obviously Elliot needs to look at it, but I think he's here and kind of understands what it's gonna be. It's,
I think there'll be another step we take when we see that agreement that approves that agreement, so I think we're covered that way. So I guess I'll second the motion that Mike made.
Motion from Stenger and a second from Derby, as stated. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
thank you, Andy. You're welcome.
Can you keep this, Andy, or you want it back? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
hey, Elliot. Hey, Elliot.
Only he did it the other way. Got rid of the ditch and made the tile.
Right.
Yeah.
Mind your way?
Nope.
Okay, move on to number 3, Scott Miners, engineer, will discuss secondary road matters.
Fresh new topic. Few things to update you on today. Just here recently, we got a notice from Tracy and Diane Thompson that they're no longer interested in renting our Sunnyside farm, the farmable land on that gravel pit. So I'll be looking into some programs or working with their conservation to find out if there's a good option to idle the property. It has not been a very good farm to farm. There's a lot of wet spots in sandy hills, and it's not been great for the farmer. So that's what I'm going to look into first, and hopefully have a plan developed here in shortly so that we don't. It's about 52 acres tillable. Not always 52 acres that yield product.
And that's what you were leasing out?
Right. The rest is in some kind of timbered and marshy areas, and then the gravel pit is right in the center, and about 500 feet across, plus some staging areas where we keep rock and other materials. The whole farm's an 80, more or less.
That's the only part you're addressing is the 52 acres.
Right. The land, the other 30 acres we do use for staging materials and everyday operations. 5 miles west of Forest City, second curve.
The Sunnyside.
Right on the border between Linden and Forest.
Right after Three Fingers campground.
That was closer to Forest City.
Yeah. Wish I could see that. Can't see the numbers.
Forest 30 is where it is.
30, yeah. Curve. Yep, sorry. You got your finger on it right there. Straight down.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Left a little.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the number?
Down.
Left and down.
Oh, that right here.
Yep.
I thought it was on the north side. What's that little part?
That is our gravel pile.
There you go. Yep. This one.
The north side, that's.
The other north.
Fingers gravel.
Well, it's
Different
north of
names for
down
it, but
here.
it's not our property, we just lease the pile, or
I've been down that road.
own the pile, I guess.
Probably a couple times.
Lease the space to put the tile.
Well, we own the pile and we've been given access to use the space. So any questions on that at this point? Okay. We also have learned recently that the up by the rake elevator, there's a entity putting in a private tile line, and it's planned to cross the road, so we'll be putting in that tile crossing across the road here this week. Normally, we bore under pavements, and it's not very easy to get a quick schedule, but we got lucky and they had a cancellation, so we have kind of shifted gears and we'll be doing that crossing this week
Where's that at?
by the rake elevator.
Is it west of it?
Between the elevator and the railroad tracks, right?
Oh,
Right by
well, right in town there.
shop, on the west edge of their shop.
Oh, okay.
They ran a storm sewer all the way over to that main. Out the old railroad right.
So, as you may know, it's our responsibility to convey the tile lines across the right of way, so
And you say it is gonna be bored?
that's the plan, yep.
So, and that's at our cost then? Is there a process, so anybody wanting to put a private tile from point A to point B across the road, there's no process in vetting that or anything?
Not really a formal process, but just a discussion with our staff. And
What's that cost?
about 10,000 plus the cost to the county for labor, and the county digs the pits on both sides, so the cost of doing that business and then the boring itself, just under 10.
If it's a private tile, I mean, are we being forced to do this? Is that what
It's what the law requires for
the law
the
requires?
secondary road department to do.
It does require us to do that, without being reimbursed.
Right.
Really? Okay.
Let's see, I mentioned last week that our next box culvert's the end of the month, and I realized that I misspoken. The end of September is when that's scheduled for. It's the one up kind of south of Jeff Peterson's that I said, Eden 28. So it'll be the end of the month. We're also, if we can keep up in we have a good schedule here through the fall, and we have the time, we are considering putting in an extra bridge replacement, and this will be on the southwest side of Myrie Slough. It's just a CMP 90-inch, so it's one of our worst postings and one of our cheapest replacements. So we got another report back from our inspectors to lower the posting on another bridge, so things just kind of keep worsening in terms of our bridge conditions, and so we're doing what we can to keep up.
You gonna put a culvert in there? Or?
That's the plan, to put in a 90-inch CMP. That's all the updates I have for you guys today.
Anything else for secondary roads?
I don't.
Well, just, I talked to Mike a couple weeks ago about, back, when we had issues with tearing up the roads, hauling manure, about, we were informed that you guys would bore, you know, if we needed a underpass under a road someplace, you guys would take care of it. And we had asked him to, you know, look at going west from my hog site. We got two 80s there. We'd like to umbilical, but there's no culverts under the road there. So, and apparently it's cost prohibitive, but I just want to make sure that we're on the same page, so that later we don't have to come in and apologize for tearing up the roads. Because, you know.
What road is that?
What's that blacktop?
County Road R34, south of.
1 mile south of the feed mill.
South of the feed mill.
Where we'd like to cross is 1/2 mile, or 3/4 mile south there along the wind generator road.
That's in Linden then, right?
Yep, Linden 27.
And so, yep, what he's saying is, Correct, we like to help the conditions of the road by putting in culverts for the umbilical systems rather than running the risk of tearing up roads with manure haulers.
It's kind of a weird deal, because under the intersection there's culverts, but for whatever reason, it makes a V. You said you'd never seen anything like it.
Well, yeah.
We had to do that when we widened the shoulders because of just the placement of the concrete pipe through the blacktop.
Oh.
We had to elbow it.
Okay. Well, anyway, there's no way to snake a line through there.
So with gravel roads, it's really not too big of a project, but for a pavement,
Right.
it's a pretty notable cost that.
Yep, and I understand that completely. I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page here. I hope the roads are dry when we haul it, but,
Any idea of the traffic on that going south?
on the blacktop?
Yeah.
400
Huge,
vehicles a day, a lot.
huge, yeah.
A lot of feed trucks.
About every 10 to 12 minutes.
So when things like this come up, it's best to just work with the
Yeah.
haulers to make sure that they're not hauling when the road conditions aren't fit.
Yeah, I know, that's a good theory. We got 45 days to haul manure until she freezes, and then you go. And we'd much rather umbilical. I mean, that's our preference, because it's, easier on the fields too. The only way to get across is go another quarter mile to the south, and that's right on top of a county tile where we would cross, and there's an intake there, and it's just an accident waiting to happen. If we blow a hose there, we're immediately in a huge tile, and we got a huge problem. DNR does not look kindly on the manure and the water system, so we try to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So,
how much was it, $5,000 to bore?
Are these your farms?
It would be from Gravers across into Sluggard. We would be laying the pipe across from my hog barn down alongside the windmill generator road, going across Sluggard's ground.
The hog barn.
What's that?
Where is the hog?
Section 27, it's half a mile off the blacktop, half a mile east of the blacktop.
Yeah, right there.
We would go north from that to the wind generator road and then come across. I would just as soon not have to lay it in a road ditch because of vandalism, potential issues. I like.
Well, how long does it take to do 160 acres?
How long does it
Yeah.
take? Well, it would be, probably a long day, 28 hours probably. What are you talking about, a drive over or something?
Yeah.
I don't know, and that would be a 8-inch pipe. It'd be a heck of a bump.
now you'd want to slow them down.
You can't do that, I don't think legally, can you?
I'm just looking for options.
I wouldn't I have enough problems with neighbors already.
The two options are to haul it
Yeah.
or to pump it, and if that's what we want to do, we'd have to stick it in the budget to put that kind of thing in.
Yeah,
And that's your ground you're gonna spread the manure on?
Yeah.
So it's a long-term thing or whatever.
Would you share the cost?
we're
I
gonna
mean,
share.
it's obviously an advantage to you.
Oh, sure it is. We're gonna share.
You say
What's
it's
the?
I don't know,
10,
We'd have to walk
12,000 to
It's
bore
their
it.
ballpark.
Because that hole doesn't need to be as deep, I suppose, as like a tile.
No, it's gonna be above the
So you-
bottom of the
yeah,
road
you-
ditch.
You just go through from bottom.
You wouldn't
of
need
the
to
ditch
dig it,
bottom of
hit
the
or
road ditch.
anything.
So would that make it any
I think
less?
we could do it for less than 8,
Less than 8?
somewhere in there. That's just wild guess.
What, if you were to share some of the expense, what would you think is a fair?
Well, I better check with Lucas on that, because my life is changing, but I better check with him.
we'll do some checking too on what the advantage is to do an umbilical
Because
to
how much-
any down.
How big like Danny Haugen, how big a hole can he bore? I mean, does he do some boring for
He
you
can
guys?
do it, and I think he gave me a price of 8,500, I think.
For how big a hole?
10, I think.
10 would do it.
Who's doing the other board?
Nickel.
Nickel, out of Dyer's.
I was told by Holland Contracting, they just got a boring machine.
Directional bore, this is an 18-inch
Okay.
steel casing. And it has to be on grade, so it's pretty fussy.
You mean the bore under the road?
No, this is different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
but I'm talking about for this
Yeah.
one, maybe they could, I don't know if they.
Yeah, this one, just a directional bore.
How much has the damage that's been caused, how much does it cost us to fix the roads from happening on the roads?
Good bill.
Mm-hmm.
Thousands?
Well, I know that time when up there at LaCourse that got us into the conflict before, you know, I can't remember
You
what.
still have the pictures to that in the office? Stop down and see the pictures of what happened.
I think you guys sent a bill for, I think it's 20-some thousand.
So we would be far money ahead to be.
But I'm just saying, that's off the top of my head. I don't-
Pretty exorbitant. Spring of the year.
Yep,
Well, we could,
Normally.
spring is always the worst.
normally It's not a huge deal.
No,
Like I say,
that
anytime
sounds like,
anytime we can promote the umbilical system, we do.
yeah, no, it sounds like to me that we'd all be much better if we got a board.
yep, well, I just want to make sure everybody's up to the same page. I'm not complaining. Obviously, our cash flow is not the best right now for even the company out, so, but,
They'll look into costs.
thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll go back to
I think
my
we're
regular day job.
whatever Andy's got for us, so we can get him out of here.
Andy, you good?
Well, I was just kinda hanging around for, reclassification of DD 21.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've got
okay,
estimates.
all right.
Al's also got commitments later today, so he's come to. Be nice to go to that one next, I believe, right?
So I didn't have any more for roads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody's done secondary roads? All right, we'll move on to number 4. Discussion of possible action regarding King Township, Section 34 ditch maintenance agreement.
So this item's for an agreement between Al Diven and the county. Presented our original agreement and then a revised agreement with requests from Al. And I forwarded both of those to you. It is the recommendation from our department to go with the original agreement. Al would obviously like to see us go with the revised version. At this point, I think that we've, in the interest of time, we both want to see this resolved and move forward to get things fixed up. So if you guys have any questions, we can address them. Otherwise, we'll take your direction.
Personally, I don't think we need an agreement at all. Things should just be done in relatively timely fashion. But, I can see your side, because if everyone's gonna want an agreement then. And they're running little tweaks to their agreement, and I can see his side where it's not getting done in years. It's, to me, it seems like there should always be a reasonable solution without having to have some legal document drawn up all the time.
I agree. We do have the advantage now in the last couple of years that we have a work order system. It does track all of the requests, and so, if there's something you think that's not getting done, or somebody catches you on the street and says, we've been putting up with this for a while, We either need to get it in the system, or we can check to see if it's already in there, and if it is, then we can easily follow up on it. So, that's one advantage to something we have now. But like I said, we have gotten direction from you to get it completed by the end of the year before the snow flies, so that's what we're committed to doing, and I agree with you.
Well, I guess in reading the first agreement, the only issue that I had with the first agreement was the line, and just read it, Scott, if you would, pertaining to how it would get done in the future. Because to me, when I read that, it goes back to just exactly where we were at before. But please read it. So.
Therefore, the county will periodically reshape the ditch as necessary to maintain the proposed grade to within 0.8 feet, and do so as workload and budget allows.
And that's what, that line right there is what totally got us, because the budget wasn't there and the time wasn't there. And that's why we're going around and around about this today. And in the last meeting that I attended, I guess I felt that there was some discussion at that time as to how it would be addressed and who would be responsible for saying when it needed to be done. And, you come up with a grade, which gives you a benchmark as to what it needs to be, which is good, because then you know what it would need to be done. But again, budget and time are the two factors that's why we're here. And that's the part I don't agree with. Now, the other part of the really, we got into this discussion that day, Scott, that I didn't know that would be part of this agreement. I just thought that would be part of the business of getting it done. But so the whole thing about this agreement thing to me is just the timeliness of keeping it correct.
And as far as I'm concerned, it should always be in a relatively timely fashion. You got to allow them at least a year to plan for budgeting. So.
Right, and that's why, on the second statement, that's kind of what I said, well, okay, we find it is now out of tolerance, if you want to use that word, and give you a year or two to get it done. So for that part of it, that's all I'm asking for, is to.
Adam, you want to say anything about it? Or?
I've talked to Scott about it. I've looked at the agreements back and forth. I think the agreements are fine. It's really up to the board as to what you guys want to set for a standard moving forward with, other requests like this. And obviously you have the discretion to do whatever you want going forward.
And I think all we've got to do as far as the scheduling goes is we got to put some things in a chronological order rather than, this problem came first, so we fix it, even though this one may be worse, unless there's going to be catastrophic damage to a secondary road. It should be as chronological as possible.
You're saying a first come, first served basis.
Somewhat, yes. Within reason, everybody's judgment and fairness. You just can't put something off for 10 years.
I agree.
This, as far as the discussion had to do with the culvert, then it had to do with the tile and intake. And so the decision was made to make the ditch the means to make this happen. And now here we are screwing around with how that's going to happen. I guess I'm surprised that we're hardly even talking about this part of it as far as the timeliness, because I guess I feel a year is not out of line to ask for something to be corrected.
You guys have a problem as far as a year, 2 years, or what are you guys thinking as far as?
Well, ditch cleaning, what'd you say, is a good expectation?
What a year is.
I just feel this is something that does not want to be done, and it's just gonna be,
Well, it is gonna get done. And hopefully the maintenance is, if it's kept mowed and all that stuff, there'd be long in the future before we're ever here again, because it's been long in the past since it has been cleaned. How many years? There was a time you guys cleaned the ditch, I can't remember, it was a long time ago. And if it's mowed and the flow, it's gonna take a long time before this happens again. So what we're really arguing about is something that may not even happen if it's properly maintained. And the clean out should be much easier than quicker.
concern I have is it's just been a rough road. And, I want to make sure it doesn't have to be a rough road for the next generation.
Yeah. And I'll agree with that 100%. And just, I can't say what future supervisors are gonna come up with or whatever, but, as far as, we're all concerned, we're kinda on the same page as far as it just, should be maintained in a relatively chronological order, or?
Timely order.
Timely, yeah.
There are variables and everything.
Yeah, no, and things come up, and, if an emergency comes up, it may have to get put off, just not for 10 years.
Certainly.
Remain in the queue.
Is it,
I do appreciate your system of, the way you document things, and put it in your system.
Just eliminates the need to recall things from your memory or whatever. It's there and everybody can read it, and it's been a good system.
So, do we, technically, we don't even need the agreement, right? Because we should have a gentleman's agreement that it's gonna be maintained. And it's been documented many times now that is the agreement, and they say a verbal contract stands up for it.
I don't know, due to the vicissitude of the board, you can call it a gentleman's agreement, but it's like you said, board members change over time. Things change over time, so I don't know, Al, it's up to you.
Well, I guess, then, based on the last meeting, I thought we were kind of going down a path to make some things happen and make some things happen here. If you rescind on this part of it, I say we go back to
Well, and maybe we should maybe make an agreement with just you. We should just have an agreement that things have to happen in a timely fashion, no matter who it is.
Policy.
A policy to make sure that we maintain drainage through our secondary roads.
But what I'm considering here is go back to the idea of the intake. Here we go round and round, but, and I said I would take care of the maintenance on the intake and put it in there and be done with it, and these guys are out of it. But it's been a pain in the county's neck on this deal, and I just don't want the next guy to have to keep dealing with
You're
this.
talking about an intake with a tile going down to the corner? Which
It's gonna be expensive to the county to make the.
seems like to me that you're gonna get more flow out of.
Oh, quite possibly,
Anyway.
quite possibly. But there's a lot more tile in that farm than there was years ago too, to help with some of that. But, I see this being a battle again. Someday down the road.
I'm not as pessimistic. I think we've set some, I like to believe that this is not gonna happen again, because it just shouldn't.
Well, I would not have agreed to go to back to the ditch idea if this wasn't gonna be.
Don't you think you mean clean the ditch? You would have wanted the tile, is that what you're saying?
Well, if we go back a year, or not a year, but last winter, whenever this took place, the decision to put the culvert across the road was done because that was the cheapest option for the county. Because they didn't want to maintain the ditch and they didn't want to do the intake. So that's where the culvert came from, was that, for that very reason, was the cheapest and easiest long-term way to do it. So we go away from that, and I guess my choice, second choice, was the intake, in that situation, and well, you say there's maintenance involved, there's issues, whatever. So here we go back to the ditch situation again, which is right back to the same old. And Bill, absolutely, it might be better in the future, but we don't know.
Well, and also, an open ditch is gonna carry more water than the tile.
I totally agree
Properly
with that.
maintained ditch is gonna be the best and the cheapest solution, I think. And the culvert going across the road was, was my mistake to take hearsay that Froggy that Norm Howland was okay with the water flowing across his ground again, and it turns out that that's not true, and I would assume, if it was my ground, I wouldn't have wanted it to change either.
And again,
That shouldn't have affected our decision, just that Froggy Howell didn't want it. That was the natural flow of the water before that road.
I'm not saying it just because it's him.
Well,
If it's anybody, if it was your field, you wouldn't want to run
No.
across there either.
right, I should have inserted that. You're right.
But again, going back to where we're at here.
It's not best for the farm. I mean, it's just, what's that?
I say, but going back to if the right way to do it is the open ditch, okay, fine. I mean, I'm okay with that. And we would not have been here. This just would have been cleaned years ago. But I mean, it wasn't. We're here.
We're hoping we've resolved that.
But I guess I really think there should be something added as to how it needs to be handled in the future.
And yes, and I think it should be not you, it should be a policy for everybody in the county as far as when these issues come up, no matter where they're at. Which would still cover you.
Now, the other couple of things, just to move on from that point for just a minute, and I didn't really realize it was going to be part of the agreement, but it was just on how to make the ditch happen, and that was this driveway issue, because it's going to have to be dismantled basically to lower the culvert in and whatever. And so the day that Scott and I were talking about that, and this has to do with talking with Froggy and just, people in general, that maybe that driveway should be gone to make the whole ditch work better, as far as be it making